On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at the origins and history of Infamous, a PlayStation exclusive series that was created by Sucker Punch, the same developers behind Sly Cooper, and also the team who recently announced they are working on the hotly anticipated Ghost of Tsushima. Infamous began development not long after Sucker Punch finished working on Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves. With Sly Cooper being a series largely revolving around stealth, they decided for the next one they would go for something more brazen and loud, ultimately opting to go for a superhero style game, drawing inspiration from material like the DC comics. One of the core aspects they wanted to make Infamous about was the idea of becoming a superhero throughout the course of the game, building your powers over time as opposed to starting as a fully fledged one from the outset. This is reflected in the final build, with the main character Cole beginning as a simple bike courier before being caught in an explosion that kills thousands of lives, but strangely also grants him the ability to control electricity. It's revealed that the blast was the result of an item that he was delivering known as a Ray Sphere, leading to many believing him to be the cause. With the streets of Empire City now a lawless crime-filled chaos, it's down to Cole and his best friend Zeke to uncover why and how he has these powers, whilst facing opposition from individuals that would rather see him 6 feet under. One of these is a man known as Kessler, the leader of a group known as the Lost Sons, who also appears to have significant powers of his own. Spoiler alert for those who haven't played the game yet, at the end it is revealed that Kessler is an older, future version of Cole that faced tragedy at the hands of an enemy known simply as the Beast that ruined most of the world, killing his wife and child in the process. In a desperate attempt, he uses his powers to go back in time, awakening Cole's powers earlier than he would have, in hope that when the Beast arrives, he'll be ready to take it on and alter the events that took place in his timeline. The game featured a fairly black and white karma system that thereby doing good or bad deeds would have serious effects on the story as well as the character and world. Playing the game doing evil and it would eventually reflect in Cole's physical appearance. His tracksuit turns into a black-grey, his skin becomes paler, whilst his electric powers go from a blue to a red colour, and he unlocks more destructive powers. If you play the game as a helpful hero, the opposite effects will occur. His image will appear cleaner and healthier, while civilians will idolise him instead of running away in terror, for example. Infamous was a successful new IP, garnering a positive reception and score of 85 on Metacritic, with critics praising the game's karma system and mixture of powers that were afforded to the player. As soon as production finished on the first, Sucker Punch dived right into developing a sequel that went on to launch 2 years later in 2011. Due to the negative reception of Cole's image, they made the decision to redesign the character, with early trailers showing him with a faux hawk, a number of tattoos, and different clothing. Fans, however, felt this change wasn't in keeping with the character, and as a result was changed once again to something more reminiscent of that in the first game, sporting a buzz cut and gear that was similar to that of his original image. As well as appearance changes, Jason Cottle, the original voice actor for Cole, was replaced by new actor Eric Ladin as a result of using motion capture and needing someone who could also perform the physical reactions of the character. Following on from the good karma ending of the first, Cole has been preparing for the onslaught of the Beast. However, when he shows, despite Kessler's efforts, he's no match, getting his ass royally handed to him. Cole heads to Numerate in hope of finding allies and in order to meet Ray Sphere scientist Dr. Wolf that's developed a new device dubbed the RFI that takes away conduit powers, the perfect weapon for taking on the Beast. Gameplay wise, Infamous 2 made several changes. As well as receiving new lightning based powers as you progress through the game, you can gain additional elemental powers depending on your karmatic choices, obtaining ice or fire moves from either Quo or Nyx. The melee system was also changed slightly. Instead of resorting to hand-to-hand combat, an amp weapon is introduced along with super moves that make it feel more like a viable option in combat. Unexpectedly, Infamous 2 adds a full level creation mechanic, allowing users to create their own levels and upload them for others to play, giving considerable replayability once you are done with the main missions. The game scored similarly to the first with 83 on Metacritic, with critics noting the graphical improvements as well as the world feeling much more alive this time around, no doubt thanks to making more use of the cell processor inside of the PS3, resulting in having more characters on screen, more complicated shaders and greater layering. Later in the same year, the series would get a standalone DLC release called Festival of Blood, a non-canon story told by Zeke in a bar where Cole encounters Bloody Mary, who subsequently changes him into a vampire with only 8 hours to reverse its effects. With this drastic change to Cole comes new abilities he can unlock, along with a change to his amp weapon, instead wielding a barbed cross. A number of new enemies were introduced, from vampires to harpies for Cole to fight against, to fit in with the different tone of the DLC. Interestingly, Festival of Blood does not feature the karma system in any form like Infamous 1 and 2. It's likely this is down to the limitations that the story imposed. Festival of Blood received generally positive reviews with 78 on Metacritic, however some critics were disappointed with the short length, clocking in at a rather short-lived 2 hours. It would be another 2 years before we'd hear anything about another Infamous game in which a teaser was shown at E3 2013, giving a glimpse of the new hero and title Infamous Second Son, with a working title of Infamous 3. The game was released not long after the PS4's launch in March of 2014. Sucker Punch wanted to take advantage of the new hardware as much as they possibly could, opting to omit any last-gen version to make the game as impressive as possible. With Sucker Punch's close connection to Mark Cerny, the lead architect of the PS4, they even gave hardware recommendations based on what they felt the game would require during the console's creation. Taking place 7 years after the ending of 2 and once again following on from the Good Karma ending, Second Son places you in control of new protagonist Delson Rowe, a 24-year-old lawbreaker that's seemingly going nowhere in life until he discovers he has the ability to consume the powers of other conduits. Delson comes into contact with another early on called Brooke Augustine, an ex-soldier that despite being a conduit herself, brands them as bioterrorists that need to be taken down, naturally leading to plenty of conflict between the two characters. Delson acquires 4 powers throughout the game: Smoke, Neon, Video and Concrete, each play in quite different ways, although many found that Neon and Video were more useful than the other two. Once again the Karma system makes a return and works in much the same way as it did before, although a little less easy to manipulate. Second Son scored a respectable 80 on Metacritic, praised for its remarkable visuals, but was criticised for its less interesting main character, story and writing compared to the first 2 titles. Towards the end of the same year, Infamous First Light released, and much like Festival of Blood was standalone DLC. The game places you in control of Fetch, one of the prominent characters featured in Second Son. The team at Sucker Punch felt her conflicted history and overall attitude made her a suitable character to feature a new entry in the series around. They also felt her powers were different enough to warrant a new game. Going into development, they placed a lot of emphasis on her characterization, often seeking feedback and suggestions from her voice actor, Laura Bailey. The story delves into the origins of Fetch that was left rather ambiguous in Second Son, exploring her relationship with her brother and also looking more deeply into her time spent under Augustine's capture. Despite her neon powers being almost identical to that of Delson's, the game does introduce some new additions. These are mainly in the form of Lumen races, where you'll be hunting down a fast-moving orb whilst attempting to hit neon speed boosts, and also arena matches that pit you against hordes of enemies with various challenges to complete. First Light scored lower than Second Son and previous games in the series, with 73 overall on Metacritic. It was praised for giving more backstory to Fetch and also for her being a more intriguing and likeable character than Delson, however they also noted that the limitation of her one power led to less gameplay variety. With Sucker Punch now working on a completely new IP, the future of the Infamous series is uncertain. However, I'd love to see a new title at some point, even if from another developer. Maybe even with the return of Cole if possible. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. That's it for today. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content just like this. Click the thumbnail on the left for an episode on Sucker Punch's other series, Sly Cooper, and one on the right for another of my videos. Thanks for watching as usual, and I'll see you on the next video.